Doesn't it seem as if our world is coming apart at the seams? There's a medical crisis with a pandemic, an economic crisis with nearly unprecedented joblessness, a social crisis with the justified frustration and anger of peaceful protests, and then the deplorable chaos and destruction from a small group of people. The recent images are enough to cause us to run back to the safety of our homes, turn off the news, live in our bubble, or block out the anguish. We could determine that this is someone else's problem and conclude there is nothing we can do, except that our Jewish values and the realities of life instruct us otherwise. We cannot hide from the world. Jonah tried that when he sought to flee from God's challenges to face the world, and it didn't work then. And for us now, the pandemic has taught us that the physical fate of us all is inextricably linked. The dramatic economic plunge that has devastated families jolts us into seeing how interconnected our security is. And the social unrest we see in our streets comes from pent-up frustration of centuries of racism that has never been truly addressed in our country because we've considered that someone else's problems. If we turn inward and close the door to the world, then indifference will always permit troubling forces to bubble up and then to boil over, as we see now. No, we cannot hide from the world. Despite the natural impulse in times of uncertainty to be only concerned with our own fragile situation, that too is a form of hiding from the world. We cannot turn inward and say to ourselves, "Isn't what happened in Minnesota a shame?" Or, "Aren't the food lines and the terrible unemployment a shame?" Because when the world comes apart at the seams, it's more than a shame. It is our shame. And if we are all connected to one another, then these become our shared problems. Our Torah teaches us not to stand idly by when our neighbor bleeds. Well, for too long, our African American neighbors have been bleeding, and their pain and their frustration calls out to us. And now nearly a quarter of our neighbors in America have lost their jobs and worry about feeding their families. Will we stand by idly with indifference, or will we stand with our neighbors? Will we stand with our ideals, or turn aside with our silence and our fear? These are the questions that these days demand of us. The answers will be not only to ask our leaders to do more and to hold them accountable, but to insist of ourselves that we do more and hold ourselves accountable. The answers will be in our responses, in civic engagement, in re-energized passion to repair our world so desperately in need of healing. No, we dare not hide from the world.